Ms. Woosley or Ms. Woosley or Mr. Bennett, what is the protocol for a violation of zoning?
Protocol?
Yeah, like how do we enforce their, like if this is a violation of their zoning, how do we enforce that?
Okay, can I first start by saying, you know, when somebody says change of use, it makes your mind think any little change is a change of use. Our code specifically says what will trigger a change of use, for one thing. And if there was a code violation, the first thing we would do is send them a letter. Well, we would determine, is there a code violation? If we thought there was or whatever, we're going to send them a letter and we're going to discuss it. If they are violating the code and continue, then they get called into municipal court.
So then my question is it a practice of the city of Cascade Locks to preemptively enforce this action, or are we more complaint driven and reactionary?
We are more complaint driven. If we hear something, whether it's a complaint or not, if a resident was concerned, we might check it out.
Baker.
I understand past practice, and I think we have a good example of Bridge of the Gods Motel making a possible change of use by housing residents for longer than a hotel stay, which I think is 30 days. It was a possible, and I'm hoping that we will move forward with owners and business plans, consulting with our planning department and checking in to see before they get hit with a code violation, before they spend a lot of money, before they make a plan that may not be a part of our plan. We got the giant downtown development plan. I don't think that KOA is part of the downtown, but
No.
but I do think it is a good best practice for any time a business wants to change their use, that they check in to see if this is, that they check in with planning to see if this is something possible for them to do. I mean, I just think it's smarter than waiting until they've done it and saying, oh, you did it wrong. That's all.
But that, I mean, that's all great, but that doesn't affect this liquor license approval. That's a separate matter. That's something we need to put on a docket for another time, or other matters or something, or we're here to talk about whether to approve this license or not. It's not about what they may or may not do and what they may or may not have done. We don't know, so we can't make any decisions on that. So we should either, say that they can just invite them in to talk about it, so that we can know more about what they're going to do, and then maybe recommend that they talk to planning commission and submit some stuff, depending on more in-depth. But that's nothing to do with the liquor license application.
Yeah, so this point in the liquor license, this is the city's point to put the teeth in, or this is the city's easy point to say, hey, this didn't go through the right channel, or like, we need to review this more. Like, this is your opportunity to do that. If you approve this, then like this is your point. That what other reason would the OLCC ask the city for a blessing to approve a permit if it wasn't for them to have like a right of refusal because there wasn't something that was being done right? So this is that point that the city gets to say, hey, is everything being done right here?
That's what I agree. I can't approve it if I don't know that it meets our city planning codes. I don't know if a bar is allowed there and what they need to do, if it is a bar. So I would have to propose that we don't approve it until they check with planning on their new use.
So it sounds like,
then my question, what is commercial use? Can
That's a
someone
good
please
question.
define what commercial use is?
I don't, but also I don't think Bridge of the Gods Motel can start serving beer by
This
the
has
cup.
nothing to do with-
My point is,
So
and
a
that's
major
commercial.
change in use would require, like, if you're gonna start serving beer, then you go through the health department. Like, there's multiple things that they need to install to serve beer direct to consumers. So, are you just assuming that they're going around getting all the permits, or are they just coming to you for the OLCC permit? There's a form every time you change your use or build something in this town that you have to go get the building department sign off. You gotta go get the health department. You gotta go get the fire code. I mean, is this building built with enough exits for people? Or are they gonna cram everybody into a closet with a tiny bar and no fire escape? Like, there's a lot of,
I hear exactly what you're saying, but that's nothing that we haven't control over. At this moment in time, all we have control over at this moment in time is, can they serve beer, yes or no?
yeah, so when we built our tent and put our tent in, we went through all the whole process of hey, we're gonna have these people. When we put our beer garden, we went through the city, we went and approached Kathy and said, hey, we're gonna put this beer garden out there. So these are all things that do get reviewed by the planning commission or by the city. And for them, it's like they have a pass in this town of adding more units to their campground than were originally allowed. And it's like, okay, they went from, their allowed amount and they increased or they doubled it. And you can see online that they have more units, but it's just like they need to go through the proper channels.
I guess I have a really difficult time calling somebody out when we don't know those details and we don't know the processes in which they've gone through.
Then we should get those details before we say yes.
But this is just a review. We're just reviewing this. We don't have any real approval. This is not actually asking for approval. This is asking us to review it to see what we think about it. And what we obviously think about is that we want to know more information. That doesn't pertain to the liquor license going to OLCC. We're not really allowed to hold this up. We just get to check yes or no.
So can I ask a question? If OLCC approves it and you guys approve it right now, does it just inherently go through?
It would, but it would go through if we said no to it, and OLCC said yes. If there's
It
no,
would just go through?
yeah, it's. We're not in control, the local city is not in control of whether or not Oregon, the state, gives a liquor license or not.
Who was just sharing that document? We were just looking at something about a code and change of use.
That was me. I'll bring it back up.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear in there. Can you scroll up there, Jordan? There you go. Permitted uses. A permitted use is a use which is allowed outright, but is subject to all applicable provisions of this title. So they get kind of a primary use, it seems like, and then they have there's some secondary uses. I mean, unlisted uses. When you scroll down, there was it seems like if you're a campground that's also selling alcohol, that's one thing. But if you're now trying to transition to just more, is it really turning into a bar, or is it just a campground selling alcohol?
I think that's the main question. I see everyone's point about, we can't hold up the liquor. We're just, but at the same time, it sounds like the council is unclear on, is this, we're using the words like, is it a bar, things like that. Nobody really knows what they're doing. So
Limited on use permit, limited on premise, which is
They may sell a drink of beer, wine, or cider.
exactly that. We know what they're going to do. They've already asked it right here. We just don't know the exact minutia of it. And that's not maybe it's planning commission should contact KOA and make sure that they're in compliance.
KOA should contact planning commission, and it's a conditional use. entertainment-oriented retail sales and service. So a conditional use is subject to the decision of the planning commission. So I
But
propose,
they already sell alcohol. This
but
is
it's
just
a change.
another form of alcohol. It's not really a change. Like, it'd be a change if they never sold any alcohol and now they're putting a bar on there. That would be a change, but they sell alcohol. This is just another step of selling alcohol.
Yeah, but they never went to planning commission for their initial first use of selling alcohol. So if they turn into a restaurant bar within 2 weeks, like they never went in front of planning commission, it's where are the checks and balances in the system? In the planning commission actually has very, very little teeth to bite in and say, hey, you can't do this in your zone. I mean, when Thunder Island built our new building, we went in front of planning commission multiple times to build a restaurant in a allowed downtown restaurant zone. So just making sure that there's, you know, if this is not an allowed use, a restaurant and bar in a zone that we don't want or do want, I mean, because there's other commercial zones in the city of Cascade Locks that need to go in front of planning commission. So
I certainly want to move forward with our planning commission, looking at our new strategic plan, looking at the plans we have. I would like, we need to pay attention and there, it's just one step to ask them to go to planning commission and share their plans to see if they meet our codes.
So we keep getting off track a little bit. I mean, I know it seems like a simple, you know, OLCC permit, but the question seems to be everyone on, is it a bar? Is it not? Is it, you know, we don't know. It's not specified in the liquor license. Yes, it's true. They don't have to get us our approval on sign it, but no one's really clear on what they're doing with it. Last year, it was pretty clear. They came, we heard from them and they were just going to sell it out of their store. So, but now they're applying for a new one and it's not specific on what it is. So
do you have to submit a new building permit to change your OLCC license? Like, would this be something that had to be additional to their building, additional to what is already in place that would require new building permits to exist?
So for that, typically with building use, and I mean, I know I'm talking to you and your wife is an expert on this, but so when we moved into the space down there in the old port building, it was an occupied zone of a F1 occupancy. So that meant that was used for like a storage maintenance area. The highest occupancy of a building is an A1 use, which is the assembly use. And you need fire, life, and safety for all those occupants. So are there enough pushed exit doors? Are there enough fire sprinklers? Are there enough everything? So if there is anything that happens to that building, it is fully safe and, you know, everybody's safe. So if you're saying that you're going to have a restaurant that is the highest use of the building code that needs to protect everybody that's going in there. So if you're putting a bar, I don't know if there's a bar going in. I think this goes back to Kathy's point. What are they putting in? They're saying they're selling directly to consumers. Is this directly consumers as a restaurant? Is this directly to consumers as a, I mean, how are they selling their beer? And the OLCC asked the city, hey, are you okay with them selling beer? And that's what this is saying. Hey, are you okay with them selling beer? Usually beers are selling, usually places that are selling beer are selling in a certain way, which is more of a restaurant bar style. So this is an approval for a restaurant bar style, which is direct to consumer style of serving beer. So just as long as the council is comfortable with direct to consumer, which is a restaurant style service of beer in a space, and making sure that, hey, fire, life, and safety is met. Hey, we approve this style of serving beer in this zoned area.
that's the problem. We don't know why they're applying for this. We don't know what the change is.
Hey, can I jump in here? This application went to City Recorder Woosley. She's overseen the planning process for this city for 28 years. She is determined to not need to go to planning. She is the expert for our city. We need to trust her knowledge and her ability to do this process. And Brenda, what has her hand?
Go ahead, Brenda.
I am Brenda Wood, and I will let you guys know, if I wanted to go rent a building on Main Street and start a business, I do not have to go through the planning commission. I could possibly, and it would behoove me, to go to my county building inspector, Mark, and he would guide me on what needs to be done with the building. He would inspect the building to make sure the building could be used for what I wanted to use it, and all of that. And in their system, they have a checkoff system. They actually ask for the city's signature, that I've been here, that you guys know that I'm gonna open a business. They ask for the fire captain's signature, and he has to say how many can be occupied in there. So you do have systems set up. I had talked about last time when I was here, and the other guy was gonna put a business on Main Street, came here for his OLCC. That the county has this in place for you guys, so you can know what people are putting in and what they're doing, and that the building can conform to it. But you guys gotta ask for that county thing, make them know the county, it's already set up for you. And then you would know what businesses are going in and what they plan on doing, and if they need to change the use and so forth and so on. But I do agree that this isn't what they were here for, they're asking for their OLCC.
Okay,
I wanna make a motion. I motion
Okay.
that we invite the KOA to come to council to explain this further so that everybody is satisfied. And I also, in this motion, want to approve their OLCC liquor license application.
I second that.
okay. Any discussion? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Councilmember Crompton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
Aye.
Farrell,
Aye.
Happy,
What would that be?
Did we lose?
Aye, did you get that?
Yeah, thank you.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
No.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. It passes. Okay, next on the list, appearance of interested citizens to share a variety of perspectives on issues facing our community. Are there any?
Yes, we have 3 of them that will turn in. The first one is Don Mott from Bridge of the Gods. Would like to do an introduction.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members, on whom I've met and spoken with, staff and citizens of this fine town. My name is Dan Mott. I'm half the new property management team brought in at Bridge of the Gods. We will not be serving here anytime soon, I assure you. I come here to make your acquaintance though, shed some light on things. I know there's been a misconception and misinformation about what's going on down at our business. So I figured after the meeting with Jordan we had earlier this week, I'd come in and point a couple things out. As you know, we're downtown, 631 Alpha Street. We offer a wide range of accommodations to fit most needs and budgets, including charming hotel rooms, most of which have kitchenettes, deluxe self-contained cabins, and RV spaces that are fully hooked up with high-speed internet. Moving forward, my wife and I were brought here to transform this property into a boutique property. A boutique property is a type of property that strives to be one of a kind and has an independent attitude. It's tailored to its location, giving visitors the chance to absorb the unique culture, attractions, and appeal of the destination location and its community and what it has to offer that is unique to its surroundings. Boutique properties typically provide guests with specific ambiance centered and catered to the community, not a cookie cutter mold like Best Western and some of the other places. They offer everything from innovative amenities to custom art to locally influenced designs, making them appealing accommodation choice for any traveler. Where we are nestled in the gorge, we have access to some great breweries, the PCT, and all our races and activities. And we want to harness those things specific to our town and the things that draw people here as a whole town that we rely on to survive and thrive, making those our main focus. We are not seeking out any full-time residents actively and are actually in the process of being fully online with all of our bookings. I hope this clears up anything that you may be questioning. If you have any questions, our door's always open, to ring doorbell, with our cell phones, just ring it. For some reason, we're not in there 24 hours a day. I'm always there to answer questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Brenda Wood to discuss Forest Lane and garage sale. Garage sale.
I'm Brenda Wood, and I wanted to, I keep on you guys about Forest Lane and the traffic and all that. I have noticed that, since DOT has put the open sign here before the lit one, that has stopped a lot of truck traffic. They're actually going to scale if it says open, so that has helped a little bit. But we still get a lot of overweight and speeding and all that. And then to remind everybody about garage sale weekend, I want to put a big shout out to the Board of Cascade locks. They really helped us during a crisis to get our maps done and everything. It is this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 9 to 5. We have 42 houses that are participating in the garage sale weekend. That's people that paid to be on the map. And it is really a big community event, and I want to give a big shout out to the board for stepping up to the maps and hanging the banner and being there for this community event. And that's all I have on that. And it should be nice. It's supposed to be 80 degrees on Friday for the first time ever. Yeah, the first time ever.
It wasn't too bad last year.
No, it wasn't.
Don't go too far. The last slip was also Brenda Wood. Subject of testimony is ethics.
Yeah, so I am Brenda Wood, and I would like to, we talk a lot about ethics, matter of fact, the mayor sat right there and read the part of the procedure to the audience the other day or to you guys, and I'm not sure who it was to. And I would like to bring to your council's attention how Councilmember Keller treats Miller in a public forum, like attack, and it's not appropriate, because I believe it was you that had gotten on me whenever I got a little upset over here about being over talked, and I've seen you do it a couple of times, but I think it's very inappropriate. The other thing that I think is very unethical is that we are having financial problems in our city, and we continue to spend money, and we don't know if our checkbook's balanced or not. We've agreed to spend $85 or whatever an hour to get our books up to date or whatever, and I get that. The problem that I have is that we couldn't, Mary Ann was our own finance officer, she made $37 an hour, we didn't want to pay her that for whatever reason, I'm not on her side or against her or anything, I'm not saying anything. But what I have a problem with is when we contact Mary Ann Bob and ask her questions about this stuff, and we think it should be free and for fun. And that is unethical to me. And either the city should start paying for that service, or they should quit doing it. And I don't know how many council members are aware that we're reaching out and asking questions. It's kind of like, we want to ask you a question, but you're not good enough for us to hire you back. It's kind of like being slapped in the face. So it's not kind of like it. And I know Mary Ann is a very nice lady and would never stand up here and say anything she did out of the kindness of her heart. But I really think the council should really look at how ethically that is wrong on many levels. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Jordan, is there any others?
Not here. Anybody online, please raise your hand. I'm not seeing anyways.
Okay. So reports and presentations, any city committees?
Tourism committee, plan to present.
Yes, alternate, you have my presentation, George?
Yes, I do.
Good, okay. Hello, I'm Matt Kelly. I'm the chair of the tourism board here, or tourism committee for Cascade Locks, and you'll have to forgive me. I built a presentation.
It's the owls, talk to the owls.
Talk to the owls, okay. I have a presentation. I need to see it, so I'm gonna take a little center room. I don't wanna have my back to you. So, it's been a while since we've come to the city and presented. We've had a lot of turnover. I thought this would be a really good opportunity to provide some overview of who we are and what we do, what we don't do, and what we're going to do. If you could put it in presentation mode right there down at the icon in the bottom, close to the 0 to 110 scale. Okay, good. Next slide, please, Jordan. So really quickly, we have a quick agenda. We're going to talk about what the mission, vision, and goal of the tourism board for Cascade Locks Oregon is. I'm going to talk about how we're funded, so we don't take money from the city, and what our current budget is, and where our budget purview is. Also, I'm going to talk about what our roles and responsibilities are and are not. I'm going to talk specifically about what the impact of tourism is to this committee and this community, as well as to the greater Columbia Gorge.
Sorry?
No worries, weird finger. I'm going to talk about SWOT. SWOT's a very important word, but what it really is, it's a self-reflection of what we think our strengths, what weaknesses, opportunity, and threats are as a working community. WIP stands for work in progress, so giving you an overview of what we're doing. We have a few requests today that we'd like for you as a committee to, as a council to consider. And then lastly, give you a couple minutes for questions. With that, next slide, please. So mission, vision, goal, funding, and budget. So our mission stated is to promote Cascade Locks in a way that elevates our community and inspires our visitors. Our vision is to drive awareness to Cascade Locks in a way that improves the financial viability of local businesses. And specifically, our goal is to draw visitors from outside of a 50-mile radius with the desired effect of staying here, because we are funded via what's called a transient room tax, and that is people that stay at local hotels, and that is money back into our community. That's where we're funded. And we're funded in a 70-30 split, meaning you as a city get 70% of the transient room tax benefit, and we get 30. So we don't take money from the city, we take money specifically from the taxes collected on behalf of the city. Our current budget visibility is $15,000, so it's not a lot, and that's actually about as high as it's been in 3 years. Next slide, please. This is a little bit about what we do and what we don't do. So specifically in scope, we do marketing activities such as advertisements through magazines that either celebrate the board or are going to draw visitors. I think, Tammy, you asked about the airport, and that's a great place where we pick up a lot of tourists. Infrastructure.
Matt?
Yes, please.
Matt, excuse me, the slides are not advancing. Aha. Sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
Let's see here. All right, how about now? Is there anything?
Can you see?
Yep, we can see.
Awesome.
Where do you want to be?
We are moving left to right. We are responsible for marketing activities such as advertisements, infrastructure as it relates to tourism, and strategic planning for marketing and tourism specifically. What is out of scope is beautification. We were chartered in 1998 as the Tourism Beautification Board, and in 2003, beautification was taken out at statewide level out of tourism's remit. So we can't do things like flower pots, we can't do murals, those are things we can't do. We think they're lovely, we'd like to see more, but we can't take our 30% of funding. It's illegal for us to do so, to pay for those things around the city. And then talking about some of our successful outputs, right? So PCT, Pacific Coast Trail Days is the biggest event that we have in the city. It's expanding this year about 100-fold, so it's going to be a much bigger event, and we're a group that helps to see and organize that. And we have a great turnout. There's a lot of community camaraderie. We're very proud of it. We've done Columbia River Highway dedications in the past, and I think most of you know we have another big one coming up this year, so we'll be actively involved in that trail development between here and Hood River. Next slide, please. A little bit about tourism specifically. So tourism is not an investment. There is an investment, it's not a cost, right? Because it's not something that you can immediately see in a profit and loss ledger. It's something you're investing in on your future. So you're basically betting on the future of the town, and you need a committee by state law to manage that, to collect the TRT funding for tourism. And a little bit about tourism, as you can see, it is far and away the biggest economic engine of this area. So in 2021, $423 million were spent in Gorges communities via tourism, right? So it's a lot of money. It's created 4,520 jobs. It generated $10 million in local tax benefits to the communities of Gorges and another $13 million to the state. So when we talk about things like data centers, not even a drop in the bucket compared to what tourism is and could be for this community. Next slide. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is a little bit about us as a committee. So some of our strengths are, hey, look, TRT funding is improving. We're having a lot more tourists come and stay, which gives us more monies to see events and advertise to the community. We have a very dedicated and diverse group of community members with a wide array of opinions, but we come together and work really well as a team. We have really good marketing expertise. We have several people that either market professionally or are very involved in marketing, so they're very savvy in how to do this. Some of our weaknesses is we've historically had very poor visibility to our budget, and the budget that is split is at the lowest level legally required. So as mentioned, we have a 30-70 split, 70% to the city. Most jurisdictions and towns do 50-50 split minimum. So we're operating at the very minimum. We've had a high volunteer turnover, so I've been on the tourism board for 4 years, and we've had 8 people come and go. So it's been hard to get a steady engagement and get a esprit de corps across a group of people. We're very committed folks, but this is volunteer work, right? So we're appointed. It's not a job or an elected position. We're appointed. We're passionate about it. We only have so many hours in the day to work on it, so I suppose that's a weakness. Opportunities, Councilperson Baker came a few weeks ago and noticed that in our charter, it's obligated for us to do workshops with the city, and we think that's a wonderful idea. Potentially doing a workshop with the city council, local businesses, there's a chamber of commerce forming, and maybe it would be a good opportunity for us to get together, get really sharply focused on what sustainable tourism means for this area and how do we work together to do that. We can be better at boosting our message via social media with more regular updates. May is grant season, so May is a season when we'll be going out and actively soliciting grants to improve upon our city. So workshopping on that with you all now would be good. And then a few threats, right? So traditionally funding appears to potentially have been misunderstood or misallocated. There are a lot of times when we've had monies just gone and we weren't quite sure why that happened because it wasn't out of a vote. Instability advisory board continues to slow down our work, and we also need autonomy to meet deadlines. And so we actually hit that today. So we talked about the $3,600 bill, and we need autonomy to have up to $2,500. And that's for a reason. We need to get publication dates, right? So we are at the mercy of publishers of magazines and media in Gorges. And then lastly, the relations with the port and the city they're not strong. We need each other to drive more revenue to the city and more sustainable tourism that benefits all citizens. And collectively, we see an opportunity to improve. Next slide, please. Some of the things we're doing in progress. So in unison with local businesses, we've launched a new tourism hashtag. I think some of you may have seen it on media. And we're really trying to elevate our presence. We're talking about doing upcoming photo contests and community spotlights, so talking to longtime citizens or interesting citizens in the community and getting their backstories, because there is a richness of history of locals here. There's very interesting people that are coming in. We have the expansion of PCT days, as mentioned. So what our attendance and went up by 35 vendors this year, I think. Yeah, so we've increased exponentially in vendors that are coming. We have ads in multiple publication with a reach in multiple millions. So our reach is around 5 million people looking at our ads across the course of a year. And then lastly, we've been in discussions with Oregon State University's Sustainable Tourism Board, which is based out of Bend. They did a Think Out Loud OPD presentation about a year ago on communities that are going through rapid transition or change in their economic status, such as Cascade locks, and how do you build a tourism engine that is sustainable for the locals, and also includes the locals and make sure that they're being enriched through the process. So that's something that we're very anxious to get going. Next slide. And then a few requests. As I noticed, we had beautification stripped from our responsibility actually 20 years ago, right? So we would actually like the council to consider stripping that from our name because that's not our responsibility. And again, it's not that we don't want to do it. We love it. We love flowers. We think they're beautiful, but we can't do it. We also request that the city considers upping the split of revenues from the 70-30 split to the industry standard 50-50. Because again, these are monies we're not taking from the city. These are part of the transit room tax from visitors to our city. And ultimately, we're trying to drive revenue for our businesses. And then lastly, as mentioned, we were hoping for some autonomy and we got it today, and thank you for that around our billing. So next slide. And then just questions. You have outstanding questions of us. You have proactive ideas or constructive criticism. You have concerns, and you want a deeper level of involvement. And with that, I will stop and open the floor.
I do have some questions. Hi, I'm Sean Crompton. I was just curious, you mentioned some stats on the tourism numbers. Is that just for summer in Cascade Locks?
Those are annual numbers via state of Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because do you have any plans for non-summer tourism activities to bring more people? Because this town is busy in the summer.
Clear.
Not as so much in the winter.
Yeah. No, I think that's an astute observation, and that's a great example of why we want to have a better partnership with the local businesses and the city council to see how we best do that, because it is very slow in the winter. Correct. Yeah, it's a great question.
Hello, thank you for that report. That's great. And I'm so glad that you went to the tourism conference in Portland. And I understand the removal of the beautification in our ordinance 259. It asks for, and I love that you said tourism, it asks that you heighten both the potential and scenic qualities of the Cascade Locks and the surrounding gorge areas to visitors and residents. So I appreciate that you talked about that, about including events and that you're including the locals. And I wondered if you heard anything at that conference about culture and arts as a part of tourism, maybe taking that word beautification and changing it to culture and arts. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so I don't know that we heard it. It's a great question. Councilperson Baker, sorry, I'm getting used to the formality here. It's a great question. Now, we didn't hear of anybody changing their name nomenclature or naming convention of their committee, but what we did hear is a lot of tourist committees that are bringing in First Nation history and actively working with communities around that, and also working with longtime residents that may be involved in the arts. And so those are things that we learned about how to incorporate. We just haven't taken that action yet.
Thank you. And I do look forward to the work session as a city committee, that we are all on the same page, and appreciate, I think, our tourism committee and the hashtags you're putting out, the publications and the flash reports are some of the most professional things that what Cascade Locks is putting out. So I appreciate that. And I am looking forward to this idea of culture and arts inclusion and seeing how, when we have a work session, because personally, whether it's grant funding or other community event monies that we might have that might help tourism, culture and arts to do more things, that's something I'd love to talk about. And that I'm speaking personally, not on behalf of everybody here. So thank you.
Now, I mean, we welcome involvement in Councilperson Baker. We welcome anyone's involvement, right? So it's an inclusive thing. I think tourism, look, it has some controversy attached, right? Because we want to make sure that tourism happens in a sustainable way that takes the values of the community and ensures that they're upheld. And we need that with people's, active involvement and voices. So yeah, appreciate that.
Councilman Miller, you have your hand up?
Yeah, to stop the confusion and I would like to make a motion that we rename the Tourism Beautification Committee, the Tourism Committee. At a later time, we may add the Arts and Culture, but at this time, I think we should name it the Tourism Committee. So that is my motion.
I second the motion.
I think most cities I look at have a tourism, culture, and arts committee of some sort of name like that. And I think in some of our surveys in the past, residents have expressed that they're hoping that there is more planning for culture and arts, not just tourists. They're saying not just tourists. And we know that what you're doing is not just for tourists. But I think that name and it would help to honor the residents, and it would help to maybe inspire our work toward some of this culture that you expressed, the Native heritage. So personally, I would like to add it now, tourism, culture, and arts. And I see.
Please,
So.
sorry. And to be clear, you know, our stated goal is to drive business to the local business, right? And so we're funded via the TRT, and so as a result, our key desire is to drive people here to stay and to shop, right? So if we think that any cultural relevant things will help with that, of course.
Butch, Councilman Miller, do you still have a question, or you're just leaving your hand up?
I'm just spacing out on putting that thing down.
That's okay. Thank you.
Now, I do want to note, City Report Woodley's comment that it is listed as tourism beautification in our city ordinance, require writing a new ordinance and a resolution to repeal it.
Yeah.
So tonight's vote can be in just general discussion of it, but it will still officially be tourism beautification until we change that one.
Yeah, we can live with that.
And
So can we, friendly amendment suggestion, can we motion that we proceed in the future of changing these ordinances in lieu of, and resolutions to drop beautification and possibly add tourism and culture and arts to the title, so that we are crossing our T's and dotting our I's on the ordinance and resolutions and everything. So it's not a hollow, we're just calling you something different, even though we have to refer to you officially as the same thing.
Correct, yeah, if without changing ordinance, if they go for a grant application, they still have to put tourism. Because that, under city law, that's what they are. Can you repeat that, Sean?
Yeah,
Just
sorry.
so Marilyn get it correct.
I would like to have a friendly amendment to not just vote on changing the name, but vote on proceeding to change the ordinance and make a resolution to strike beautification from the title of Tourism and Beautification Committee.
I have a question, and maybe Jordan, you know, does it, so do we have to go through our attorney and this will cost money to change the name?
Yeah, I mean, everything will be reviewed by the attorney, yeah.
Is there an estimate on what? No, the cost?
$175 an hour.
So,
And what budget would that come out of?
The contract services line for the attorney.
do you know where we're at with that?
No, off the top of my head, no. We pay $1,200 a month for up to 8 hours of legal service, and then we pay $175 an hour. And from what I can tell, up until recently, because everything seems to happen when I showed up, we very rarely actually use those 8 hours.
Because I know we've had to refer out quite a bit.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering if $300 to $450 for the name change is worth it right now when we haven't done our budget for next year. If we could reconsider that until we find funds that might, you know, like tourism funds or, you know, or talking about our strategic plan, maybe wait till the strategic plan to make a name change. I don't know if the tourism committee would, because we might get some planning intern time, I'm not sure. Help if the tourism committee was willing to hold on for a little bit for us to save $300 to $450 for the official name change at this time. Don't know.
I'm just suggesting that we make a motion. The motion is that we will actually change the ordinance and not just put a Band-Aid over it.
And respectfully, I don't know if you're a doctor, but I work with lawyers, it's just a strike. It's just a word strike. It's not
holding you back from any.
well, it's not holding us back in any way other than maybe perception in the community, right? So I think that that doesn't necessarily bother me, but I think it bothers citizens who think maybe we should be doing more, not understanding. Or things of that nature. And I love flowers. But yeah, but I also think that just a contract strike, you know, respect.
Yeah,
It's a strike order. I work with lawyers.
it won't take long.
Yeah. You had a question?
I did, I was just wondering, you're going towards the arts and cultural, if you have already, been in touch with our local artists in the Gorge. I mean, my goodness, we have a lot of them.
Yeah.
I mean, they might be able to, I guess this kind of beautification, but maybe not, if it's artists like doing murals. I know Stevenson, we have two in town, which I love, but, that might be something that you could look into if the artist is going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we're in touch with some, but I don't know that we've done any formal reach out. So I love the idea. I think anything we can do that will improve Cascade Locks for the residents and for visitors and drive revenues, we're open to. As long as it's done sustainably, and we're wide open to it. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay, I think the thing to remember to council is that any name, it's gonna cost money. So it's gonna get down to whether you want to spend $500 right now.
If Matt, if you felt with your goodwill to the community and what you're sharing, that maybe people will understand that beautification doesn't mean planting flowers, you know, then I'm hoping to wait and see our strategic plan, and possibly there are lots of changes that we might do at once with a planning intern or something. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming here, but I personally would not want to spend $500 right now. I'm wanting to be very careful with the money. And I thank you again.
As a clarification, as from what I learned from Jordan just now, that if we have our 8 hours still for the month, or is it the week?
Month.
So if we still have 8 hours for this month that we haven't used, it wouldn't cost us any more than we're already paying.
It's a retained.
Because it's a retained amount. So if we can ask him, and if he has already spent that time, then we can say, wait till next month. Or, you know.
Just strategically ask him this week at the end of the month.
Exactly.
Jordan,
There is a motion on the table?
Well,
It's been seconded.
Jordan, wait a minute. Jordan, question for you. So we have so many hours a month. If we don't use those 8 hours, does any of those hours carry over to the next month, or we just lose them?
Nope, we lose them. Whether we use them for 5 minutes or 8 hours, we pay $1,200 a month.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there's been a motion, and was it seconded?
There's a motion and a second, and then you amended it, and there hasn't been a second from the amendment, right?
All right.
Look, I'll second the amendment. Yeah.
All right, Sean, can you restate what that was?
Okay, I wanted to amend Butch's amendment to make it more official and pursue changing the ordinance with a resolution to strike the name beautification from the title of Tourism and Beautification Committee.
Wow.
And second.
And that's the second. Okay, and I think any other discussion? Okay, move to a roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Everly Baker,
No.
Farrell. Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. Okay, that's been passed. All right, discussion, let me see, fire and EMS quarterly report. Chief Logan?
I'm also gonna kind of stand to face the TV. Mayor, city council, in your packets, there's my staff report. This first quarter has been kind of busy for us. We've had 94 calls. Through the end of March, 62 of those calls were within our ASA. ASA stands for ambulance service area, which basically is starts at the county line and then moves all the way to milepost 56 on I-84, and then 80 points in between. We responded to 7 calls in that 3-month period. To Skamania County, 7 to the rest of River County outside of our ASA. We responded to 18 calls in our contracted area with Multnomah County. So from the county line to Multnomah Falls, we have a contract with Multnomah County to provide services in those areas. A bulk of these calls were medical in nature, and we requested mutual aid from outside agencies 3 times in that first quarter. New ambulance update, on the 17th, our ambulance license was approved. So we have started the process of decommissioning the old red Medic 92 and transitioning all the equipment and gear into the new one. Please don't come to our station and expect the base to be clean. There's medical equipment everywhere. As we're doing this, we're taking into account what the state requires and what Multnomah County requires, because we have to be licensed by both agencies. And trying to make sure that we have what is required in our ambulances. And at a minimum, so like if the state says we have to have 44 gauze rolls, that's all we're putting in our ambulances. Unlike a lot of other agencies that go and post somewhere and spend 12 hours in their ambulances at a time, we're a station based, so about 2 emergency calls is what we need stock for. We don't need to stop like the world's ending. Last thing in there, we're looking to partner with a scenic area to host an engine company from the fire aspect of the scenic area. They're gonna rent some space from us. So they're gonna rent office space and spot in our apparatus space and house one of their engines. That's gonna be huge for us. Being able to talk with their engine captain directly on a day-to-day basis is only gonna help us respond to wildland incidents in and around the city of Cascade Locks. Getting what their knowledge is for fire weather forecasts and all the things that they get on the daily, we will also get, and having it streamlined to us instead of me trying to go to the National Weather Society to get that and figure out what their staffing is on their online portal. I'll just walk out and be like, hey, what's the standing for the day? So the costs that we're charging them is gonna offset our costs for utilities and toilet paper and cleaning supplies, and then a little bit of that money's been earmarked to start replacing some of our wildland equipment. mainly our PPE, so our pants and our shirts. To give you an idea, a pair of pants is about $350, and a shirt is about $175. So times that by 19 people, it's expensive. And that's just our wildland equipment. So we're hoping that this will start in and around the 1st of June. It'll give us time to get the ambulance that we're decommissioning out of the bays, and so we don't have 3 ambulances crammed into our fire station. We'll only have 2, and it'll free up that spot. I would love to sit down with the tourism committee and talk about what tourism does to fire and EMS and the strain it puts on us and how we can work together to find grants for equipment for us, especially with all the new trails going in. Any questions, comments?
Quick question.
Yes.
Chief Logan, how often are you required to cross the Bridge of the Gods?
Well, this first quarter was 7 times. The biggest bridge that has been an issue is the Hood River Bridge. Our red ambulance that we're decommissioning didn't have one of the breeze bys in it because it was second out and it wasn't really used. And then our first out went down and we started using the red one. And then when we transport to Skyline, it's a lot quicker and more efficient for us to cross the River Bridge. And so we got hung up there a couple of times, so we didn't have the breeze by. We've had the breeze bys for over a year. And at first we started getting bills, and then Marianne and I worked. We would always send the bill back with highlighted things like, this is for emergency response, this is for emergency response, this is for emergency response. Now I just stopped seeing bills. Because I think it was a lot of work for the ports to decipher whether it was routine stuff or emergency calls. We really don't cross the bridge for non-emergency stuff a lot. Maybe once or twice every 3 to 4 months.
Do you still have interest in the old, someone else having interest in purchasing the old one, the old ambulance?
Yes, I have 2 options. I'm working with a third party to figure out an approximate replacement or cost of that. So can't be like, oh, the fire chief made a sweet deal with somebody. It's going to be a third party who sells ambulances is going to come in and give me an evaluation of that piece of apparatus, and that's what we will ask for.
And that money will go.
Right back to him.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay.
Anybody online have any questions for me?
I have a question.
Yes.
The 18 calls to Multnomah County, I can't remember, we charge them they pay us to
Yes.
service that area. Is this more calls than we normally see for that area, or or are you seeing a increase?
Not necessarily seeing an increase. I've just started tracking where we go on a more regular basis. I would like to approach Multnomah County about increasing our price. Currently, they're getting a pretty good deal, and they're paying us $20,000 to service that area. Our partners to the west, Corbett Fire, services about the same amount of space from Multnomah Falls to Corbett, and they're getting $70,000. So there's a little bit of a difference.
Yeah.
One of the big hurdles I think we're gonna have is that Multnomah County EMS is gonna come back and say, you guys are a transporting agency, you're billing for that call, which yes, is true. But I would say over half our calls on the freeway, that patient is not going in the back of our ambulance to a hospital, which is how we bill. They're signing a refusal form, which we do a small amount of billing for. I mean, it's like $375. But
You still have to respond.
we still have to respond, still taking resources away from our city to respond to there. So I think upping that contract price is where we're going. So that's why I really started keeping track of where we're going and how we're getting there.
Councilman Baker?
Hello, Chief Logan. Thank you again for all that you do. I appreciate that you brought up the point of increased tourism and the impact on our emergency services. It is something that certainly our city council should look into. And we're here at a League of Oregon Cities event, and I'll certainly ask around, are there sources or places that you're able to go and talk to other fire chiefs about how they're funding EMS services for, let's say, the interstate I-84? Are there, or big tourist events? Are there, or is it something that you're saying, please go ask around? And if you have ideas, I'm just inviting you to share them with us, be it email or what you're hearing, other agencies.
Yeah, actually, tomorrow afternoon, I'm headed to Bend for 3 days to the Oregon Fire Chiefs Association Conference, which will be my first time attending since I've been fire chief. So I'm looking to really network and get to know those chiefs and have those conversations with some of those districts and cities that have high tourism to see how they're funding their fire department in conjunction with tourism. Because most of all of our money comes from property taxes. And I would say 75% of the people that utilize our services aren't from here. So the constituents are paying for the service and the tourists are utilizing the bulk of the service.
Thank
So
you.
trying to offset that cost to the residents is high on my list.
Thank you.
Chief Logan, I want to say thank you. You're doing great. And I'm glad to hear you're going over to Bend. And the conferences, they're just a wealth of knowledge. So I'm really happy to hear that you're going over. Thank you for that. And also, I know in our one of our planning meetings of the council that we did talk about the possibility of increasing services or funds rather, the cost. So I'm glad you brought that up as well.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good possibility.
Yeah, and I think in that meeting, you guys had talked about my proposed 56-hour work week for the paramedics. And so what that looks like is it's budgeted overtime. So it's pretty standard in our industry to cover 24/7, 365. Unfortunately, like on MLK Day, I can't just close the fire station and hope nobody calls 911. So having them transition from a 40-hour work week to a 56 and budgeting for that 16 hours of overtime will allow for 24-hour coverage of an ALS provider in the station. And so what that looks like is the first 40 hours is straight time, and then the last 16 hours of that is overtime that's budgeted for and approved by the budget committee and ultimately the city council, which will guarantee that there will always be a paramedic in the station unless, since we don't have a deep bench, somebody calls in sick or takes a vacation. But currently right now, every pay period, there's one paramedic that gets 3 shifts into that pay period, which would put them into that 56 hours. And we have to drop that shift. So for 48 hours, we don't have a paramedic on duty. That falls back to me covering that, which is fine if that shift is Monday through Friday. But occasionally it happens on a weekend, and then, I'm stuck covering the city on the weekend when I'm not scheduled to be at work. So getting that 56-hour work week would allow for a paramedic to be on duty 24/7, and we wouldn't need to drop a shift every pay period. So any questions on that? Did that explain it?
I guess my follow-up question would be, that seems like that might be your most significant need. What is your most significant wish as we enter into budget season?
That is my most significant need and wish, really, is getting that locked in and dialed, so we can move forward. I think last time I was here, I talked about the Oregon State Fire Marshal Engine Program. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful in getting an engine from the Oregon State Fire Marshal's office. But our new relationship with scenic area, the engine captain knows the Region 6 fleet manager, and she is reaching out to them to see if they have anything that is going to be coming offline for them, but it's still good, that maybe they can earmark for Cascade locks. So there's already some workings of cooperation with the scenic area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion on process for Cascade Locks Community Development Code amendments. Jordan?
Yeah, so the state's in your packets. We had a business approach the city about changing the development code to allow food pods. And because the current code allows only 120 days for a temporary street vendor. There's discussion on changing it so it can be year round. However, that is actually quite a bit of a lengthy process going to the planning commission and then also being approved by the city. Even although this is a city process, it is 100% dictated by the state. We could go through 7 months of updating this process and the state can go, nah, I don't want you guys to do that, and we have no say. So I want to make sure that's clear, that yes, this is a city process, but it's completely controlled by the state, for land use. And Kathy, I hope I hit everything on the head of the nail there. Did I miss anything?
Nope, sounds good.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So, again, if it's zoned for commercial use, how does it, and it's being used as a commercial aspect, how does like Luba determine that that is not commercial?
Good question. Kathy?
Okay, what this pertains to doesn't say it's commercial or not commercial. What our community development code, how it is written, is all done and approved by the state. Any change within that document has to go through the process, and part of that process is to notify the state of what you think you're going to change, and they get to approve it. In the end, they approve the change.
And to clarify, the specific change being requested is that temporary street vendors are temporary, 120 days in a calendar year. And the request is to make it year round. So remove the temporary, so we could have a street vendor on somebody's property on Wanapa year round.
That's what Hood River has, because they have carts there year round. So it's a city thing, not a county thing.
Correct, but there's still a process we have to go through to change it, whereas the planning commission, they do their process, once they approve it, then it goes to city council, there's public hearings we have to do.
So
Yes, time and money, yes.
So
Well, go ahead.
I guess, so I'm hearing, it's a little difficult to hear every word on this, but this code that we have seems a bit more excessive than other cities, because I see Stevenson has year-round food carts, I see Hood River, I see everywhere. So it actually seems like a good change to me. I'm not sure of the expense of the process or the next step.
Well, that's why in the staff report, we tried to explain that it definitely is a big expense, because we have to include the attorney at some point. I mean, not the attorney, the planner, I'm sorry. And our code was written in 2001. So back in 2001, guess what? Vendor carts weren't that big of a deal. Today, they're very bougie. I mean, everybody has vendor carts, and they have cart villages. And sure, I think Cascade Locks could use that sort of thing, but our code says that our code doesn't specifically list street vendors. We have an ordinance that allows street vendors because our code didn't have it in there. What our code says, land use code says, that is a temporary business, a temporary thing. So a temporary use in a commercial zone is 120 days. So number one, change in the codes would be vendor carts need to be in there somewhere. And then the other changes is where can they be? How long can they be? Do they need to have a certain design? I mean, whatever other cities might have in their code, it's a lot of research, a lot of time, and unfortunately, a process.
Thank you. I thought that looking at, and I appreciate all the information you shared with us.
I think, Kathy, you made a good point. When you're talking, if the council's going to make a change to an ordinance, make all the changes that need to
Right.
be, like,
Yeah, let's think about, I mean, usually what it is I actually do have a list. If things come around, I make a list, because what the planning commission does is, there might be 20 things that they need to be considering. And then it's the planner with the expertise that decides how all that fits properly inside the code.
go ahead.
Anybody else?
I don't see a hand up.
I did call a planner in another small town to just ask what is a good next step, and it was exactly what you said, Kathy, that look at all your codes. And that particular planner said, oh my goodness, the gorge is exploding. It will help guide your future instead of stopping development and stopping developers from coming there. If you look at all your codes and try to do that at once. I don't know the budget for that. I do know our strategic planning organization has access to some planning interns. I don't know if they have the expertise you're talking about, Kathy, that if we could put off some of this and try to apply to get the planning intern that might be more affordable to help work with you or somebody to go through all of the things and the planning commission to see what kind of changes so that we were strategic with our time. But anyway, I'm just wanting to share the information I got, and that it does seem like we want to make a change to the tourism, possibly in beautification. Now that's a little different, that's ordinance, but we're about to get a new strategic plan with this new group we're working with that may imply changes to codes. So personally, yes, I think so. I'm sad to wait on this, but because I think, wow, food carts for our summer tourism events might be cool, but they maybe won't be here longer than the weeks we want. But I would like to look to this group being financially careful and look at, okay, let's look at many of these things and find a way to fund it, find a way.
Well, and the last time we went through code changes, I believe it was in 2018, and there was a grant as how we paid for those changes then.
Okay.
So we can definitely check for grants as well.
Thank you.
That would be great. That would be great. And Kathy, you said you have a list of.
We do, like one of the things has, okay, years ago when they did the downtown plan, at that time, they didn't want any McDonald's, anything like that. They didn't want any drive-throughs. And one of the changes was conditional use to allow a drive-through in a commercial. But like the vendor carts, like where the coffee cart is now, it would actually be a perfect spot to have a drive-through. But guess what? Our code says you can't do that.
Right.
So yes, it's looking at all those things that you might want to be different than what it is right now.
Thank you.
So it sounds like this is pretty much a more in-depth conversation, and it would be, we could get it on the list when all of us are present and maybe go down the list and see what we could add. And then also I'm really curious about the grants. That would be great if we could get those.
Kathy, who searches those out? The planning commission, the tourism commission, all of us?
Well, usually the state notifies us if grants are coming available, but I can do some checking.
Thank you. And Caroline, I know your hands up.
We have Shauna wanted to say something here.
Okay.
Oh, well, I have a few things to say. I'm Shauna Sabowski. I own Highlighted Coffee Co. And I'm the one bringing this issue to the table. So I just have a couple of, I guess, clarification, comments and questions to bring, to awareness. So the ordinance does not have the 120 days in it. Ordinance 5450 does not have anything about 120-day limit for mobile units. It is cross-referenced, it's on the application and or vendor registration, street vendor registration, which is what I have to do. But it's not on the ordinance, it's in the code, so I understand that. But what the code states is a temporary, I'm just gonna point out the word temporary, retail and service activity in a commercial zoning district shall be permitted without site plan review or conditional use approval, provided it does not operate for more than 4 months in a calendar year, 120 days. When I got my mobile unit licensed in the county of Hood River, I paid for and I went through the whole process of doing a site plan review for a year permit on my mobile unit. It is not a temporary. I'm not just a street vendor. I'm not just a tent coming in selling fruit. You guys get taxes from me. The city of Cascade Locks, I pay taxes to do that. I pay a fee. I am more than willing as a street or we'll say a mobile food truck to pay a fee to the city to bring income to the city. I think I'm one of probably many mobile vendors that would love to be in Cascade Locks, but not very many are going to come into Cascade Locks when they find out they can only be here for 4 months out of the year. They're gonna say, oh, I don't wanna go following, and then have to be kicked out, right? So I think I'm not a temporary, and it specifies temporary, so I think there's some wording clarification. It's kind of tricky that it's in the code, but it's not in the ordinance. That ordinance was brought out in 2019. And it was brought about for a couple of different reasons from my understanding. One of them was, I believe, people going on the street soliciting business. I mean, I don't do that. Another one was, I think that what was said was that it was taking away money from current businesses. But I'm doing the same exact process. I'm doing the same exact process as a brick and mortar does. So, and I know I've opened a brick and mortar in town before. It wasn't a process at all to open a brick and mortar within the city of Cascade Locks. I didn't have to pay anything besides, I believe, a sign fee to have a sign for my brick and mortar. So just to state all those things, I think there's some clarification. I think there's a lot that needs to be addressed in all of the above, because it's not clear to me. I don't know about other people who've read the ordinances and the codes and what everyone sees in there, so.
Shauna, thank you for coming and speaking. It's hard for us we're more on Zoom. We can't see who's in the audience. We see very pieces of it. So I'm glad you were here. I know, Caroline, you've had your hand up for a little bit. And normally, normally we don't take comments from, so other than in the one, but tonight we're running it a little bit different because I think it pertains to questions. So go ahead.
I just, as a business that has, had to start from scratch here in Cascade Locks, I would really encourage the council to think thoughtfully on how we can allow Shauna to continue her operations in her business. She brings a lot to the community, and I understand there's a code issue here, and it seems as though that this code issue is going to be quite the process to remedy. And if there's anything that you can do in the meantime to provide her an allowance to continue to operate, I know that there are a lot of people in our community that would really appreciate that, and that are very sad to see Shauna's cart go to Hood River, because she is an asset to our community and she clearly has a lot to bring. And the fact that, you know, we have it isn't as simple as her renting out a building downtown. A lot of the empty vacant spaces need so much repair and maintenance that really, for her as a business, she's making the smart decision by operating her cart, and she's able to provide service and product beautifully through that mechanism. And maybe in 5 years after she really establishes herself, maybe she can move into one of those spaces. But right now there isn't really a lot of opportunity for startups to really kind of start and learn their operations without really going in and, oh, sorry, baby crying. Anyways,
Okay.
that's my, please think thoughtfully on how we can help Shauna make her business successful here.
All right, thank you. Thank you. So Kathy, you may be able to answer this one, or Jordan, both of you. Is there, it's part of the code, the 120 days. And is it a possibility to grant a business an extension?
You would be violating the ordinance.
Well, I don't want to.
So it'd be an ordinance violation, and I don't.
It's not in the ordinance though. Sorry, I don't even know.
Well, the community development code is adopted by ordinance. The street vendor ordinance is an ordinance.
Yes.
I just don't understand how you can look at the code and say that a temporary situation is 120 days, but you don't. I mean, the code does say in definition what a retail or what a temporary service is. So I don't know if you can find some way that it's not violating the ordinance. I guess contact the attorney. I have no idea. I mean, we've went through this with the attorney. We've went through this with Shauna. I don't see where it can be more than 120 days without changing the code.
So Kathy, you guys talked to our attorney, and that's what he said. We have to change the code. Correct?
You would have to change the code, yes.
If I am considered temporary, I guess that's just kind of my question.
Well, if you can move it, you're temporary. I mean, I just don't. And that is one of the questions that we asked the attorney specifically.
Okay.
So, it's just interesting that this new ordinance was brought about in 2019, correct?
The street vendor one?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure when it was adopted, but yes, the street vendor ordinance is a separate ordinance from the community development code.
Right, so that's just where it gets confusing, that was the new ordinance created.
That's because our code did not have street vendors in it. So that was pardon?
But then the code, then if it's made in 2001, doesn't have street vendors in that either, correct?
No.
What are the provisions for requesting a variance? Isn't that part of the code?
Well, you can look in the code and see what it says that allows a variance, and it's not a man-made hardship, so.
Okay, so it sounds like Kathy, you've talked to the attorney, and So it's
We've
not
talked with the
something-
planner, we've talked with the attorney, we've met with Shauna and
So we have to, it just bottom line is we have to change the code. And it's a
yes, I think
process-
we need to change the code. Yes,
we need to change the code and it's a process to change the code.
it's a process.
Okay.
Kathy, we have somebody in the audience with a question.
Pardon?
Mayor Fallon, sorry.
What's
We have somebody in the audience with a question.
Yes, I'm Neil McCormick. Just to clarify something that was brought up on the drive-through. Wasn't there a variance allowed for that? And wasn't that post 2001? Or was that prior to 2001?
There was an amendment to allow drive-through as a conditional use. I think that's in the commercial zone, not in the downtown. I'm not really sure. I'm talking off the top of my head.
So how is this different as a commercial zone than that? Because I'm confused on, if there was one allowed already a variance, could there not be a variance again?
Is it because there's
A pre-existing condition.
Yeah,
My
I'm not
understanding
sure
is
what
that
you're
if it
talking
was-
about.
If East Wind was existing currently prior
Yes.
to, then they get
Yes.
a pre-existing condition, just like the
Yes.
hotels.
Yes.
So I don't know the year and whatever, the coffee business that was a coffee business is now the real estate right next to Thunder Island. Was that not a drive-through?
It wasn't there.
Yes, and he had a condition, he had a conditional use to allow that,
And when was that built? When was that?
I don't remember, 2000,
2016.
somewhere in that neighborhood.
So you've already.
He had to go through a process.
You already been through that process. What is stopping that from happening again?
now,
Well, it's a
Kathy,
temporary vendor for one. I don't know. I feel like we've explained everything that needs to happen and I just don't know what else to say about it.
All right.
Kathy, I have a question. Is this because the code or the code is more strict and hard to change and it's not an ordinance? Or is it because it's in code and an ordinance, which is making this kind of doubly?
Okay, the Community Development Code is adopted by ordinance, yes. Land use is regulated by the state. There are just certain things that we have to do and there's no getting around it. It isn't just us, it's the state.
So yes, the code, not the ordinance.
All right. Councilwoman Emmerling?
I just, and it maybe Shauna doesn't want to do this, but it was a crazy brainstorm. If her food cart were inside that old garage, what she's in front of right now, would it qualify her as permanent?
If she was in a building, I don't think the building department would allow her to put her cart inside, but I have no idea. Maybe they would. If she was operating out of the building as a business, she could probably do that.
Yeah.
There would have new development in that building might require some planning stuff. I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So it sounds like no matter what, there's a process. And it sounds like there's, and if we're gonna make changes, it sounds like in versus the 120 days and extending that, sounds like there's a few changes to make. Kathy, I like the idea of getting a grant. I don't know timeline what that looks like. Do you?
No, I would have to check and see if there's any monies out there. There may not be. I have no idea.
Okay. Maybe if you could check and see if there's anything available, that would be great. And then I don't hear any, it seems like the council that I don't hear any oppositions to having the food carts. I mean, that's certainly a much deeper conversation on what that looks like, where it is and everything, but I don't hear any opposition to, Shauna, yes, that we do believe you are an asset to the community and would love to have you. And so we're going to try our best to see what we can do, but it sounds like we can't legally grant an extension of that. None of us want to be in violation of and get in trouble that way. So it sounds like we're going to have to do some research, and Kathy's going to check on grants and then get on the get this in on another day for council meeting and talk. It's going to have to be more in depth as well.
Sorry, I was just reminded that we thought we might have extra attorney hours this month to strike a word from our documents. I wondered if we might allow Shauna to meet with the attorney and maybe Kathy or Jordan or somebody who has time to look at how to possibly apply for a variance or I mean, would that be something we might offer ever? Do we ever offer that?
No, we do not offer that. You can't offer citizens to use the city's attorney. I'm sorry, you can't do
Okay,
that.
I didn't know. Okay.
We're learning, Kathy.
Yeah. Okay.
They're good questions.
They're good questions. Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're looking for answers. So all right. So
and I just want to add to that, you guys have a planning commission, and this is their job to look at all this stuff. And that's really where we want to start, is with the planning commission. Let them do the legwork, and there is an application process. If you don't want to go through the application process, and if the city's going to take on all the expense, then I mean, it is going to take a lot of time and a lot of research and a lot of meetings.
Okay. All right. So Shauna, it sounds like making a appointment with our planning people. We'll get it started.
What I'm understanding is that making an appointment, can you actually make an appointment with planning? Or do you have to pay I believe, $3,000 fee to start a process? I guess there's no clarification on what's what as far as that goes. So I'm really confused of what my next steps are actually, because Kathy, you and I have gone back and forth with so many different variables and options to where my head is spinning. Because there's so many options and I guess what I do and possibilities. There's me as a food truck or a food cart, mobile unit, whatever you want to call me, to just stay longer. There's that option. Is there the option of me doing a site plan? There's the option of me creating a food pod where then that would be allowed year round. There's so many options, but do you see what I'm saying? There's where.
Okay, we've talked once before when there was a property across the street that was considering using her commercial property for like the Podville thing. That it was discussed then that would take an application.
Right.
That would start the process. The other option is we can talk to, which there's been some conversation going with the Planning Commission chair. If we want to set a meeting with the Planning Commission, we probably would not have the planner come in because we don't pay the planner unless we have an application. So probably we can have Todd we'll set an agenda and have a planning commission meeting to discuss possible changes to the community development code. That's how we can start.
And then that, Kathy, that wouldn't have a cost associated with that, right? To start that.
To start discussion with the Planning Commission, no.
Correct. Okay. Shauna, does that sound like a plan?
I think if there's the ability to start a conversation with the Planning Commission, then I think that is good information. I did not understand that before. I'm not sure if that was relayed to me or not. I think that's a little different from what I was understanding.
Okay, so it sounds like, would it be safe to say, Kathy, what's the best way to get the appointment with the planning commission?
I will have to contact Todd in the morning. I'll just send him an email and ask him if he wants to set up a meeting, and that's one of
Okay,
the things we can have on the agenda.
okay.
I do want to say one more thing. Just speaking from not just my business and Kylea and, that, but I think, coming at it from the perspective of the city and what actually this concept can bring to the city, what it can bring to the area, not just me and my business, because it's definitely not just me and my business. Because I mean, we live in a beautiful area with lots of ability. I can definitely, I'm headed to Hood River and I think it's gonna be amazing. So but I think what this brings to Cascade Locks, and I'm saying this as a city to the council members, is it brings options to the townspeople. It brings more affordable options. It brings, and then me being down here brings people out of the congestion of downtown Cascade Locks. I think knowing that there's the ability, that there could be more food trucks potentially on this side. And I think just a quick bite that's easy for people to, go get a $5 taco, right? Or a couple $5 tacos, rather than, going into a restaurant and/or, frequenting the East Wind that has a long line already. Let's have a few more options in town. And again, this, I believe it brings a lot to the city. I think every other town, the Dalles, I sent all the codes, the Dalles, White Salmon, Hood River, Stevenson, all allow year-round food trucks, all of them. Portland, obviously, we know Portland does. Portland, Gresham, Troutdale, everyone in the surrounding area allows food trucks year-round. So again, I address the council members as this is, I didn't even know exactly what was the plan in this discussion tonight. If I was hoping to ask for a change. So, yeah.
Right. Well, I appreciate you, Shauna, and for being there and us all having this discussion as well. And so it sounds like we have a plan in place. Kathy's going to check with the planner, and then we're going to get that started.
Pete had his hand up a while back. Do you still have anything to say?
No, I think everybody said what I was thinking, so I'm really glad to hear we're kind of moving the right direction. I was just gonna say, we need to get in front of the planning commission, and I think try to get our CDCs, consistent with what we have in the surrounding area to support local business. So,
And I just want to say thank you, Kathy, for offering to do this. I know Dave Lips from planning is here, and I've spoken to some of them about meeting without the planner to help with some of these things. So I'm excited to hear that. And Kathy, I want to honor your time. I don't know the work hours of the members of the planning commission, but if I certainly want to put out there that if they can meet with you before 5 p.m. so you don't always have to come in the evenings, possibly our current commission can do that. So I want to thank you. I know our webpage says the planning commission generally meets once a month on the second Thursday at 7 p.m. And obviously there might be other times, but I look forward to monthly planning commission meetings. Personally, I'm not speaking for the council, to talk about things like this. So thank you. And I know it takes your time, Kathy. So dream of the best time that you would like these meetings to happen.
Okay. I think we've said all that there is for that. And
I did want to ask one more thing. Denise, do you think this would could qualify under the Oregon Main Streets
certainly
grant applications?
It might, and I know that Jordan is our contact there, and I know Travis was going to look into some of that from Gorges. And I certainly will check at League of Oregon Cities while we're here on this kind of where we can get funds. So thank you for asking that. And I'm not sure, well, we might know people here who can speak to the Main Street. If somebody else wants to take that on, otherwise I will call the Oregon Main Street. Or Jordan's our contact. Do you want to check, Jordan? Do you have time in your?
Yeah, I can reach out.
Okay, but I'll check here at LOC. Thanks.
Okay. Let's go on to City Administrator Bennett report.
Top of the list, community vision plan, we had second steering committee meeting April 11th. It was a really good meeting. Met for just under 2 hours, developed draft vision, mission statements and values. Those we workshop at the workshop scheduled for May 6th. That's kind of set up for, and there's a public notice in your packet. We'll have tables set up with different topics. We can mingle, discuss the topic. I'll be there all day or for 3 hours. Amanda from Oregon will be there. Interns from Oregon will be there. Just discussing with residents, kind of their thoughts. The topic, or the stations will be city values, mission statement, strengths and weaknesses, future of CL, and then opportunities for improvement. Kind of see where those conversations go. They will then take all that information and the steering committee will review it at their final meeting, which has yet to be determined for that date. As I mentioned last meeting, because of the extra time and work we're asking from the University of Oregon, estimated price gone up to $18,500. Electrical rate study, to make sure we're following procurement processes correctly. I'm trying to get 3 quotes. My third company reached out, he decided not to provide one, so I reached out to the 4th company, and they should have a quote by the end of this week that I can present at the next council meeting. I sent out an Excel spreadsheet of the council goals. I think I've gotten most of them back from council, asking for prioritize them so I can summarize them for the next meeting on the 8th. Dan mentioned earlier in the comment section, I did meet with him and Sachin, is that his name? Sachin from Bridge to Gods. They are definitely changing their business model to focus on short-term overnight stays. Dan has done a fantastic job in the few months he's been here, so I think our issues with Bridge to Gods are turning the corner. I can't predict the future, but I think things are being smoothed out there. Moving forward. There is a new company that has approached the city about wanting a new large electrical load, roughly 3 megawatts. Following the same process we did at Roundhouse, working on an MOU and with the engineers to make sure we can A, provide it, and B, that the city's covered for anything that may happen with that business. BPA substation, they told me by April 15th they have a price, and of course now they're telling me a few more weeks. They didn't give me a date, they just said a few more weeks. So I will keep bugging them. City budget, contract CFO Carl Bondi is switching gears from reconciliations to making sure our budget numbers are up to date. So when I do present a budget for the budget committee, it actually has the most accurate numbers possible. I am still working with department heads and Carl on that. I'm hoping to get a draft out to budget committee to review in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then actually set up budget committees end of May, early June. Traveling to LOC spring conference tomorrow and Wednesday, and then I'll be in the Dalles on the 3rd for the Gorges Tourism Summit. It was originally scheduled for first week of March, I think, and it got canceled because of the snowstorm. A few items I have on here that aren't on the list that just came up in the last couple of days. We have an outlet on this wall right here. We had to run it from the coffee pot, and then we run the coffee pot along this wall here. TV's been ordered, so next meeting we'll have our new TV up here. So the audience does not have to strain their necks. Reached out to Hood River Garbage about the roll carts. The quote for $7 per cart per month is still good. So I don't know if council wants to put that back on the agenda, but that price has not changed. And then lastly, we did have an arborist come look at the trees at the cemetery. I just got a report on Thursday. And I can bring it as an actual item, agenda item on the 8th. The trees that are not native to the area, but they're all healthy. They're a little overgrown. They're planted too close to each other. We could thin them out. But there's, I guess, other than minor maintenance reasons, there's no need to actually get rid of it. So, but I'll give a more deeper report next week or in 2 weeks. That's all I got.
Do we have any details about the new company asking about the usage? Or
They are
they a Bitcoin miner?
Yeah.
And hey, Jordan, real quick, is the Roundhouse deal done? Is that deal dead?
I have no idea. I've sent them the MOU and I have not heard a peep back. Really, since that open house, I haven't really heard anything. So the ball's in their court.
Is Jeremiah still on?
Looks like it.
Jeremiah, can you comment on the Roundhouse?
Are you asking if the deal is dead with us or if the deal is dead with the city?
Just where are you at? where are they, or what are they?
We're currently still in negotiations with Roundhouse.
So if they use Roundhouses originally tried to do 3.5, and then these are 3, and we're at 7. So that's pushing us to 13.
Yes, I talked to engineers. They are comfortable. If both went online tomorrow, they'd be comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it put us up there, but they're comfortable.
Well, I don't know, that this is gonna require a much deeper discussion. You know, it's after 9 right now, but I mean, we, as a city, we run over 7. Then you add, if we added Roundhouse 3.6 and another 3, that pushes our load. It exceeds what we can do. And then just because, from what I understand from the VPA, just because you have a station that can handle a specific load, that doesn't mean you run it up to that mark. And if we do, my concern is, I don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. You know, for basically, I don't know what this other business is, but I'm assuming it's some type of Bitcoin or something to draw that much wattage. But, and then to not only do that, but these are businesses that historically don't produce a lot of jobs. So, but I think this is a much deeper conversation for a different time. All right, any other comments? Okay, let's go to mayor and city council comments. Councilman Sean, how about you go first?
All right, I just want to thank everybody for coming and showing your various supports for Shauna and your own businesses like Bridge of the Gods Hotel. And I'm looking forward to going to a few yard sales this weekend in the nice heat. I want to thank Chief Logan for giving us some pretty good detailed statistics on where they're going and how much is happening, and the amount of people that are residents using our services versus non-residents, which is that number is a bit surprising to me. I mean, it makes sense, but it also, I would like to see our residents not shouldering the burden for everybody else who comes to enjoy our area. But not make it unreasonable for people that get into trouble in our little slice of heaven. I think that is it. Thank you, staff, as always. You do a lot of work.
Okay, Councilwoman Tammy.
Excuse me, I've got a cold, so. I got actually the state historic preservation officer, had a nice long phone call with her. And I have forwarded the email she sent me to both, you, Mayor Kathy and Jordan. And perhaps we could put that on the next, agenda. Basically, this building does qualify, as a historical building. And, the one thing that I took away that really kind of shook me was that, she said that even if we're not listed as a historical site, we still are one, and that we would need to consult with them if we were gonna do any type of demolition or what have you. The take that I got though was that there are preserving Oregon grants available if we do get it listed, and we don't have to hire a consultant to do it. I haven't looked into more detail, but I'll do it before our next meeting. But this kind of sounded pretty cool. Also, thank you to everyone who did their presentations. I did want to ask you, sir, is there any plans for opening the laundromat back up?
It's currently up and running.
Oh,
We
yes,
got
ma'am.
a few machines waiting on parts, but it is. up and running.
Okay, because that's a wonderful thing for people that are
We've actually
touring.
been in talks to maybe even get service and more machines in there.
Excellent. All right, glad to hear that. Thank you, Kathy Woosley, for joining us tonight. And thank you to the city for going door to door or yard to yard, picking up our yard debris. And that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Miller.
Okay, I'd like to thank staff for all their hard work. Dan Mott for making his presentation, and Brenda. She does a lot of really great work on that garage sale, and I'm glad to see it continuing the way it is. I'm glad Jeremiah was able to step up and help her with the maps. So, and as far as Eric and I go, you know, I got some pretty thick skin, and him and I exchanged a couple emails this last, in between the last session. So I think we're working on a good track. I mean, we're going to have differences of opinion, so I'm used to it. John Logan's always a rock star for us. He does a huge job, and that's about. And also, out of tonight's meeting, there's definitely a couple points that over this next 2 days, there's some questions we'll be able to ask during this meeting, and I'm excited to get to that tomorrow. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Councilman Happy.
I guess to echo Butch's sentiments, I am very grateful to be able to attend the League of Oregon Cities Spring Conference. I just want to express my gratitude to everybody back in Cascade Locks putting this meeting on in our absence. And very excited to see Amanda's email today about the Cascade Locks Strategic Plan Survey come out. I saw that on Facebook as well. Really excited to start to get some feedback from the community as they get more involved with this process. And I'm excited to see how that influences so many of the things that we're really talking about tonight are, you know, kind of really tied together. So this whole idea about street vendors and food carts in our CDC, you know, there's a lot that we I think need to revisit. And I guess I just want to make sure that we're doing, you know, I guess there's two different things. We got, you know, the immediate issue to take care of and resolve for businesses like Shauna's. And I don't want us to get overburdened or I guess so focused on trying to fix it all that we don't make something simple happen to support businesses right now. So I guess I think that both need to happen, but we really need to, I think, find a solution you know, quickly, as opposed to getting bogged down and trying to rewrite all of our CDCs to address Shauna's specific concern. So I'm really happy though that we're able to give her some direction and keep that moving forward, because I don't want to see her business go to another community that's near us that has more favorable CDCs towards food carts, because we don't want to lose that where we are. That's really all I got. And again, yeah, I guess I gotta say great job to John. And I'm really excited about the us hosting and getting some rent. Seems like a win-win. We're able to, supply this engine crew with a place to stay this summer, but really that ability to network and pick their brains, I'm sure will be really valuable as well. And appreciate the report you put on for brought us this evening. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. All right, Councilman Keller.
I just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Woosley for the insight and clarification on the land use issues via the KOA. Thank you to Mr. Mott for his clarification and his time in developing the Bridge of the Gods Motel. Thank you to Ms. Wood and for the organization of the garage sale, as it's a huge community event. I wanted to encourage the support of the Gorges Canoe Club as we look for activities and organizations that bring the community together. That is an incredibly large one in our community. Chief Logan, for the incredible acts that he does with such a limited resources. And thank you, staff, for an incredibly detailed agenda packet that had all the answers within it and all of the work you do with incredibly small plates and incredible large tasks.
All right, thank you. All right, Councilwoman Denise.
I just want to say again, thank you to all the staff. The packet of information you gave us this month, I don't know, it's like 200 pages, and I read some of it online before, and it's difficult for me to decode. And I appreciate, Kathy, your expertise. I appreciate even Carrie. I call and ask a question and she knows some things. I just really appreciate all the expertise that you're all bringing to us, and Jordan for going through all the tasks. Again, I want to reiterate that I loved hearing the report tonight. Thank you, Matt Kelly from Tourism. Thank you, Dan, for coming. I had a chance to speak briefly with Dan, who said, "Oh, I'm talking to the your city administrator soon," and he had exciting things to say. So I'm very happy that Bridge of the Gods is looking toward our future, and that's what I love. And Shauna, bringing this to us, you are helping other businesses, even if we can't help yours immediately. And I want to thank you for holding steadfast and asking the questions that every new business is asking. Like, I don't know where to start, because you're helping other people. I know that doesn't feel good, that it's not so immediate as Pete said we want to. So as I try to tie this together, Planning Commission meeting on a more regular basis to discuss these things at a time that doesn't overburden our planning expert, Kathy, would be so valuable to these new changes that are coming to the Bitcoin or whatever wants a lot of power, that they can check in and ask questions and we can be informed. And the Tourism Committee for their considering cultural arts for what they're doing to look that might help our community as well. And then John opening up and saying, wow, tourism people are a big strain on our EMS. What are we going to do? I love that we're having these questions, and I'm dedicated to asking more experts and listening. And I just want to thank all of you for being here, for sharing, for supporting each other, and for embracing the change that's coming. Kathy said it. These are old codes that we need to work on, and we need to find the money. Thank you, Tammy, for looking for some money. We're all looking for the money. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, looking for the money. I know, well, I'll start off by saying thank you so much to city staff and everybody putting together this amazing packet. Sat and read the whole thing, every word. Really appreciate it. Jordan, a big thank you to you. I know you stayed back to run this meeting, and you're going to be coming out here tomorrow morning early. So bless you for that one, and really, really appreciate it. Kathy, as always, thank you for all your answers and being on. I know you work all day and then you're here on at night as well. So really appreciate that. Thank you to Dan, Bridge of the Gods Motel, coming in and speaking. And welcome the bike rentals place. They're up and running. I guess a couple people tried them out last weekend and they just had wonderful reviews. So I'm excited for that. And congrats to the Columbia Gorge Canoe Club, moved into their space. I haven't been down there yet, but I've seen pictures with the workout machines and everything. And my hat's off to them. They are just tremendous with the community. Thank you, Brenda Woods, the garage sale weekend. A lot of people are excited. 45 houses. That's amazing. So, and thank you to the port for the mapping and helping with that and the signs. That's great. Thank you for all the comments tonight. Dave and Caroline, Travis, everyone who had a comment on that. It was really a lot of value. Thank you to Matt Kelly for tourism. It was really nice to hear a report and see a presentation. It really felt good. Lots of good information. What was that?
Just me coughing.
Oh, okay. No worries. Thank you to Chief Logan. Holy cow. You're just doing amazing, you and your crew, and excited for you that you're going over to Bend. I know these conferences they take a lot of time and effort, and it always sounds glamorous to travel to Bend or the coast or whatever, but you are working from sun up to sundown at these, but it's an exciting time. So I'm glad you're going. The chili cook-off, when is that? That's coming May what?
May 7th.
Okay, so, and that's a fundraiser for you, right?
Correct.
Fire and EMS?
Yep.
Okay, so everybody go to the chili cook-off. Tammy, thank you for researching on City Hall and then also being there to hold the fort down too in case something happened with the internet. Yeah, Denise and I had to share because our devices were too close, so that's okay. We just winged it. And then really thank you to Councilman Happy, Miller, Baker, and Jordan, and for coming down here to the LOC, to the conference. It is a wealth of information, lots and lots of good topics tonight that I know all of us will be searching for answers. And Pete, this is your first go around at a LOC, isn't it? Hold on to your hats. But it's a ton of information, but you're gonna really enjoy it. They put on probably the best conferences I've ever been to. So anyway, that's it. Thank you. And thank you for everyone being patient. I know it's a little wonky with so many of us on Zoom, but I really appreciate everybody attending. And that's it.
I have a couple things. I missed it on my report, and Pete brought it up. The survey for the community plan is live. It's up and going both in English and Spanish. So links are on Facebook, our website, and then hard copies will be available around town here shortly.
But they're not emailed out at all.
No, there's a QR code in the newsletter going out. There's also a flyer for the workshop, but the survey itself is a handful of pages. It's by weight, so it'd just be too much to mail out. Yeah. And then today marks exactly 6 months for me. So yay! You guys have mentioned it. I think the council goal setting session, I'd love some kind of review feedback, just to make sure I'm going in the right direction.
Okay. All right. Is there going to be a motion to to end the meeting?
I motion to adjourn.
I second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emerling Baker,
Aye.
Farrell,
Aye.
Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. All right, everyone, safe travels and
Thank you all.
thank you all.